Elevators out, someone muttered at Brighton Station. The crowd shifted, uncertain. Then a calm voice rose above the noise. Hold on. Don't move her yet, the man said, stepping forward, hands raised. Let's make a plan. One step at a time, and we'll get you there safely. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Let's begin. The evening crowd at Brighton Station moved like a tired river, all motion, no warmth. Commuters clutched coffee cups, briefcases, and the last fragments of daylight. Near the north exit, a handwritten sign blinked under the fluorescent light. Elevator out of service. Charlotte Reese stared at it, pulse sinking. Her knees still throbbed from surgery. Her crutches leaned against the wall, and the wheelchair beneath her hummed with silent frustration. Her 10-year-old son, Caleb, fidgeted beside her, backpack slipping from his shoulders. Mom, we can wait, he said softly. She smiled the kind of smile mothers wear when they're too tired to argue. If we wait, we'll freeze. That's when she heard a steady, grounded voice. Need a hand. A man in a worn delivery jacket stood a few steps away. Late 30s maybe, broad-shouldered, kind eyes. Marcus Hale, his name patch read. He carried a dolly stacked with boxes, but his tone carried no rush, no pity, just calm. If you're okay with it, he said, we can take it slow. I'll spot from behind, keep your balance. One step at a time. Charlotte hesitated. She hated depending on strangers. But there was something about him. The quiet competence, the gentle authority. She nodded. Marcus crouched, folded the chair handles inward. Ben, right? You can hold Mom's elbow and count steps for us. It's Caleb, the boy corrected shyly. Perfect. You're our team leader then. And so they began. The delivery driver, the CEO no one recognized, and her son, climbing the long staircase together while the city moved past them, unaware that one small act of patience was about to change 3 lives. By the time they reached the top, Charlotte's breath came in shallow bursts. The station lights flickered overhead, casting long reflections over the polished floor. Marcus steadied the wheelchair with practiced ease, his hands sure but gentle. See? Told you we'd make it, he said, smiling faintly. Caleb beamed, proud of his own steady counting. Teamwork, the boy announced. Charlotte laughed softly, brushing hair from her forehead. Thank you, Marcus. I don't think we'd have managed without you. He shook his head. You would have. Just needed a plan. They stood there for a moment in the afterglow of shared effort, 3 strangers who suddenly felt like something closer. Then Charlotte gestured toward the cafe across the concourse. At least let me buy you a coffee. It's the least I can do. Marcus hesitated. His shift was running late, but something about her tone, sincere, unpolished, made him nod. At the cafe's corner booth, the aroma of roasted beans curled through the air. Caleb stirred his cocoa while Charlotte studied the man across from her. His jacket bore delivery patches, but his notes, scrawled on a napkin, were unexpectedly precise. Small arrows, lines, boxes. What's that? She asked. He looked up, embarrassed. Just habit. Mapping steps, angles, helps me plan loads and routes. I like knowing how things move before they move. Charlotte smiled, intrigued. You think in systems. Guess so, Marcus said. Makes chaos a little quieter. She folded the napkin carefully, slipped it into her bag before he could protest. You have no idea how valuable that kind of thinking is. He chuckled, unaware of how prophetic her words were. Or that, by morning, that napkin would open a door he never thought he'd walk through again. The next morning began like any other. Marcus's alarm buzzed against the cracked nightstand, his daughter Ava already stirring in the next room. He brewed cheap coffee, checked his delivery schedule, and made sure her homework was tucked in her backpack. Cereal or toast, kiddo, he called. Cereal. But the fun kind, Ava answered, still half asleep. He smiled. You get the practical kind with fun branding. As he tied her shoes, his phone vibrated, an unknown number flashing across the screen. He almost ignored it, then sighed and answered. Marcus Hale speaking. A clear, professional voice replied. Mr. Hale, this is Reese Logistics. We'd like to schedule an interview for our operations department. Your name came highly recommended. Marcus blinked. There's got to be some mistake. I didn't apply. No mistake, the voice said warmly. Your insight was noticed. Are you available today at 10? He hesitated, glancing at Ava, who was humming to herself while zipping her jacket. Yeah, I can make it. When he hung up, a strange mix of curiosity and disbelief buzzed through him. Reese was one of the largest distribution companies in the city, far above his pay grade. At exactly 10, he stepped through the glass doors of their downtown headquarters, feeling both underdressed and out of place. The receptionist smiled. "Mr. Hale? Right this way." He followed her into a bright conference room and froze. Charlotte Reese stood near the window, her crutches gone, posture strong, confidence effortless. The CEO of Reese. She turned, smiling. "Good morning, Mr. Hale. I told you that napkin was valuable." Marcus exhaled slowly. "Guess I'm about to find out how much." Charlotte motioned toward the long table where blueprints and shipping maps were spread like a puzzle. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, glinting off the steel edges of her cane, a quieter reminder of her recovery. "I hope you don't mind," she said, "but I like to see how people think, not just how they answer." Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. "You mean an actual test?" "A simulation," Charlotte clarified. "You're leading a delivery team during a winter shutdown. Half your drivers are stranded, the loading dock is blocked, and we have 30 minutes before contracts expire. What's your move?" He stared at the diagrams, arrows, zones, transit times, then at the small notepad beside him. The silence stretched. Charlotte leaned against the table, curious rather than impatient. Finally, Marcus picked up a marker and began drawing. "You've got bottlenecks here," he said, circling one area. "You don't fix traffic, you redirect it. Reassign 2 drivers from Warehouse B, turn this corridor into a temporary dock. Priority loads only, medical, and produce. Everything else waits for daylight." He stepped back, lines and arrows now forming a new pattern of flow. "You can't win every battle," he added quietly. "You just make sure no one freezes in the middle of it." For a long moment, Charlotte said nothing. Then she smiled, not the CEO's practiced grin, but something genuine. "You think in motion. You lead without forcing it." Marcus shrugged. "Old habit. Delivery's half about people, half about problem solving." Charlotte extended her hand. "Then welcome to Reese, Mr. Hale. Operations lead, effective immediately." He blinked, unsure he'd heard right. "Just like that. Just like that," she said softly. "You earned it on a staircase yesterday." By the end of his first week at Reese, Marcus was still trying to process how a single act of kindness had turned into a corner office with his name taped to the door. The office wasn't big, just glass walls, a desk, and a view of the loading yard, but it felt unreal. He didn't bark orders or flash authority. He listened. When drivers complained about scheduling, he sat with them at the break room table and drew lines on napkins again, mapping routes that made sense. When a team member panicked over a missing shipment, he didn't assign blame. He joined the search. Charlotte noticed. She'd pass by his floor quietly, observing the shift in energy. Fewer slammed doors. More laughter. Even the night crew had started bringing coffee for one another. One evening, she stopped outside his office. Marcus was on the phone with his daughter, voice warm and steady. "Brush, story, bed. No negotiation, kiddo. I'll call you after the moon shows up." When he hung up, he looked up, startled. "Sorry, I didn't hear you come in." Charlotte smiled. "Don't apologize for being a father. That's the best leadership training there is." He chuckled. "Parenting doesn't come with a manual. Neither does running a company," she replied. Then, quieter, "But I've learned the best people for either job start with compassion." He studied her for a moment, the strength behind her composure, the way she stood without needing her cane now. "You're healing fast," he said. "I had good motivation," she answered, her gaze softening. "Some people remind you that not everything broken stays that way." Outside the window, trucks rolled out into the golden haze of evening. For the first time in years, Marcus felt like his life was moving forward. Not rushed, not forced, just quietly, steadily right. 2 weeks later, the calm broke. Charlotte's executive assistant burst into Marcus's office, breathless. "A major client just threatened to pull out. Faulty routing data. They're claiming we lost them $500,000 in damages." Marcus frowned. "Show me the report." He scanned the figures, pen tapping against the desk. The numbers didn't add up. Someone had altered timestamps on shipment logs. Not an error, a cover-up. "Who had clearance for this?" he asked. The assistant hesitated. "Only 2 people. One of them's from your team." Marcus exhaled slowly, the weight of it settling over him. He could fix a jammed truck engine or a broken ramp. But this, betrayal, cut deeper. Still, his voice stayed calm. Get everyone to the floor in 15 minutes. No yelling, no blame. We'll sort truth from noise. When Charlotte arrived, her posture was iron. The boardroom murmured with half-truths and excuses. Marcus stood beside her, sleeves rolled, maps spread open like a battlefield. We can fix routes, but not integrity, he said evenly. Someone changed these files, and whoever did it. You still have a chance to own it before we hand this to legal. The room fell silent. A young dispatcher, nervous, pale, finally stepped forward. I just didn't want to lose my job. The update failed and I panicked. Marcus nodded once. Then you face it, but you'll learn from it. He turned to Charlotte. Fire him, and the rest of the team learns to hide mistakes. Coach him, and they'll learn to trust you. Charlotte's gaze lingered on Marcus, then softened. You heard him. We correct, not destroy. As the room cleared, she whispered, You could have let me handle that. He shrugged. I didn't want another broken system. People are like staircases, they need patience, not shortcuts. Charlotte smiled faintly. You're exactly what this company needed, Marcus. He looked at her, thoughtful. And what about you? When's the last time someone slowed down for you? Her silence was answer enough. Later that night, long after most employees had gone home, the city lights shimmered beyond the glass like scattered gold. Marcus stayed late, reviewing shipment data, when he noticed a familiar reflection in the window behind him. Charlotte stood there, coat draped over her arm, eyes tired but thoughtful. You ever go home on time? She asked gently. He smiled. Trying to beat your record. She laughed softly, then leaned against the doorway. You were right earlier. About people needing patience. I used to think leadership was just acceleration. Faster growth, faster numbers, faster everything. Until life slowed me down. Marcus turned from the window. Your surgery? She nodded, voice quiet. It wasn't just a torn ligament. A car hit me last year. I was walking my son to school. We were lucky, but I spent months thinking about everything I couldn't fix. My company, my image, even my own body. Her eyes glistened, but her tone stayed steady. That staircase yesterday, it wasn't the first time I couldn't move forward on my own. You reminded me what real help looks like. Marcus looked at her, humbled. Sometimes slowing down isn't failure. It's survival. She smiled faintly. You sound like a man who's been through his share of slow seasons. More than I'd like to admit, he said. After my wife passed, every day felt like a stoplight that wouldn't turn green. Ava kept me going. Kids don't let you stay still too long. For a long moment, neither spoke. Just the hum of the city and the quiet rhythm of two people who finally understood each other, not as CEO and employee, but as survivors learning how to walk again. When Charlotte finally left, she paused by the door. Tomorrow, I want you to join the leadership meeting. Not as a guest, as part of the team. Marcus nodded. I'll bring coffee. And patience. Good, she said softly. We'll need both. The next morning, Marcus walked into the executive boardroom in his usual jacket, clean, pressed, but plain. Around the long table sat a dozen polished faces, their watches gleaming like tiny mirrors. Charlotte introduced him simply. This is Marcus Hale, our new operations lead. He's the reason half our shipments didn't collapse during last week's storm. A few polite nods. One man, gray suit, perfect smile, didn't bother hiding his skepticism. With respect, MS. Reese, he said, we're discussing national logistics strategy, not field operations. Perhaps Mr. Hale's experience isn't quite the right fit. Charlotte's eyes flicked toward Marcus, as if testing how he'd handle it. Marcus just smiled. You might be right, he said easily. I don't know corporate jargon, but I do know the people who move this company's freight. And I know when a system's about to break before it does. The room quieted. He stepped forward, rolling out a set of revised delivery projections he'd worked on overnight. You've been using one-size-fits-all routing models, he continued, circling a few figures. They look efficient on paper, but fail during local blockages. If we adjust priority clusters and add 3 rotating relief routes, we'll cut downtime by 30% without adding cost. The skeptical executive blinked. And you came up with this when? Last night, Marcus said, while everyone was asleep. A ripple of surprise passed around the table. Charlotte leaned back, satisfied. This is what leadership looks like when you stop talking about people and start listening to them. After the meeting, as they stepped into the hallway, she glanced at him with quiet amusement. You didn't just win them over, you stunned them. Marcus grinned. Guess I passed another test. Charlotte shook her head. You didn't just pass. You changed the room. And though he'd never admitted out loud, for the first time in years, Marcus felt like he truly belonged there. Not because someone opened a door for him, but because he'd earned his way through it. Friday night came quietly, with a soft drizzle that blurred the city lights. Marcus had just finished his last delivery check when his phone buzzed, a text from Charlotte. Cafe on 9th. I owe you that coffee I promised. He smiled, grabbed his jacket, and walked through the cooling rain. The cafe was warm and amber-lit, half empty except for her by the window, hair loosely tied back, no boardroom armor this time. Just a woman who'd learned to breathe again. You're early, she said as he sat down. Habit, Marcus replied. Delivery drivers are allergic to being late. She laughed, stirring her tea. You know, you've changed the whole energy at Reese Point. The staff actually talk to each other now. I keep hearing about the Marcus rule. He raised an eyebrow. Do I want to know what that is? It's what they call patience with progress. You don't demand results. You guide people toward them. He looked down modestly. Guess I just try to treat people the way I'd want my daughter treated one day. Charlotte's expression softened. You talk about her with so much pride. She's my compass, he said quietly. Every good thing I've done since my wife passed, it's been to make Ava proud. The rain deepened outside, a soft percussion on glass. Charlotte leaned back, her voice gentler. You know, Caleb asked me if I'd seen you again. He said you were the nice man who carried courage up the stairs. Marcus chuckled. That's generous of him. I was mostly sweating and praying. Their laughter faded into a comfortable silence, the kind that only forms when two people understand the weight the other carries. Charlotte glanced out the window, her reflection caught in the glass beside his. You ever think how strange it is? A broken elevator, a few steps, and now this? Not strange, Marcus said softly. Just proof that good things still find us, when we're willing to stop and help. Outside, the rain turned silver in the streetlight. A few weeks later, Brighton Station looked different. The elevator was still out of order, but beside it now stood a smooth, temporary ramp lined with safety rails and a new sign that read, Accessibility provided in partnership with Reese Point Logistics. Marcus stood at the base of the ramp that morning, his delivery van parked nearby. He was on his way to a meeting, but couldn't resist stopping. The hum of trains echoed overhead, and sunlight spilled through the glass canopy like a second chance. A voice called behind him. I thought I'd find you here. Charlotte approached, walking without her cane now, Caleb trotting beside her. Her son's grin widened when he saw Marcus. Hey, it's the staircase guy. Marcus laughed, kneeling to Caleb's level. Staircase guy? I can live with that. From across the concourse, a little girl's voice rang out. Ava, holding a paper cup of cocoa in both hands. Dad, they have your picture on that board. He turned, startled. On a nearby poster was a small card. How to help on stairs, respect, asked support. Underneath, a sketch of a staircase, the same one Marcus had drawn on that napkin weeks ago. Charlotte smiled at his expression. Your napkin became company policy. I hope you don't mind. He shook his head, humbled. It's strange seeing your handwriting in public. She looked at him thoughtfully. It's more than handwriting. It's the reminder that leadership starts with simple kindness. Caleb tugged her sleeve. Mom, can we get lunch with them? Charlotte glanced at Marcus. What do you think? Coffee and something less symbolic? He grinned. Deal. As they walked toward the cafe together, Marcus, Charlotte, Ava, and Caleb, the noise of the station faded into a softer kind of music. Behind them, the napkin sketch gleamed under the morning light, a quiet testament to how one respectful choice on an ordinary day could build not just a ramp, but a bridge between strangers, families, and futures. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more stories that stay with you.